This area is covered with expansive asphalt. Once there was an extravagant commercial facility here, modeled after the scenery of Venice, Italy. However, managing this commercial facility proved to be highly problematic. Unpaid construction fees, unpaid salaries, and overdue property taxes. Despite optimism and popularity, it suffered massive losses. Illegal construction, bankruptcy in just 3 years. If I start listing everything, there's no end to it. The facility featured a canal offering gondola rides, and the buildings were impressively constructed. Even though it disappeared in just 3 years, it became a place that remained in people's memories. This time, I will introduce the Nagoya Port Italia village, which was located in Nagoya City, Aichi Prefecture. I've arrived at Nagoya Port Station, the last stop on the Nagoya City Subway Meiko line. The location is about 30 minutes from Nagoya Station or Sakai Station. It's about a 5-minute walk from the station to reach Italia Mura. As the name suggests, Nagoya Port has a ferry terminal and thrives as a trading hub. Most of the station's users are couples or married people. That's because the Nagoya Port Aquarium is nearby, as well as Sea Train Land, which people want to visit. There's also a small amusement park. I usually live in Osaka, but when I travel for filming, I basically don't have time and end up going home without sightseeing. When I come to a station near a leisure spot like this, it really makes me want to go sightseeing. I've come up to the surface. Well, as you'd expect, it really has that classic port town atmosphere. Now, let's head over to where the Italia village used to be. The Nagoya Port Garden Wharf area along the seaside features attractions such as an aquarium, parks, and museums. This is an area where tourist spots are gathered. Italia Village was also part of Garden Wharf. The east side of Garden Wharf, where Italia Village is located, was originally the site of a Nippon Express warehouse. Adjacent to Italia Village is a park featuring a model of Nagoya Port. There's a fountain shaped like that, so if interested, please check it out. Now, after a nice fast forward, we've arrived at the site. It's currently an empty lot, largely covered with asphalt, with only a small plaza in one section. The plaza surrounded by asphalt looks so surreal, most people probably wouldn't even know there used to be a commercial facility here. A sign remained, showing directions to the Italia Village parking lot. This sign is likely the last remaining instance of the name Italia Village, giving it significant value. It's pretty worn out, but since this is technically outside the property, maybe that's why they didn't remove it. I figured there was no way I could actually get inside, but as I kept walking further in, surprisingly, I was able to enter. This area is open to the public as the East Plaza, and it seems to be open only on weekdays from 9 ante-meridium to 4 post-meridium. Surrounded by asphalt, the grassy area appears to be the East Plaza, but it's unclear who would visit. Perhaps it's being kept open merely for the sake of it. Even if elementary school kids come here after school, it's only a few of them. The place isn't really playable and closed on holidays. Its usage is questionable, especially with a larger one right beside it. There's also a park, so it seems unnecessary. Many people have been curious about the building in the back that gives off a strong Italian vibe, sitting there by itself. This place used to be a wedding hall. This wedding hall has been operating since the Italian village was open and remained open even after the village closed, but finally, it appears to have closed down in 2024. As expected from a place that operated until recently, it remains beautiful. When I looked it up, it seems there used to be another building next to the one that still remains, but only this one is left now. It seems that it has been demolished. It's a mystery why both of them weren't demolished. Looking over the site of Italia Village like this, you can see that it wasn't actually a really huge commercial facility. The site area is 31,000 square meters. That's not even as big as one Tokyo Dome. It is a large commercial facility, but compared to others, it's on the smaller side. It's hard to imagine that a canal once flowed through this site. Now, I'll explain what kind of commercial facility Italia Mura was. I've also been able to borrow some valuable footage from when Italia Mura was still in operation, so I'll show that during the explanation. You won't want to miss it. Nagoya Port Italia Mura was a multi-purpose commercial facility that opened on April 2, 2005. It was a project by the Nagoya Port Authority and Seed La Vie Holdings. The Nagoya Port Authority owned the buildings, and Nagoya Port Italia Mura Ko Ana o Ulotejisei, a subsidiary of Seed La Vie Holdings, developed the facility as the developer. The facility was run by Nagoya Port Italia Mura Ko Ltd. Individual two-story shops lined up. At the entrance, there was a large three-story main building, the Venetian Glass Museum, and it was divided into 4 zones, including a wedding hall. About 80 shops were operating there, by the way. The main building appears to have been renovated from a Nippon Express warehouse. The shops were also designed so as not to spoil the appearance of the facility, and there were hardly any nationwide chain stores present. It is said that there aren't any. Among them, the lineup of tenants is quite bold. It's rare to see such a daring selection these days. The lack of similar commercial facilities makes me excited, yet uneasy about its feasibility. Despite its eventual closure, the concept still intrigues me. The biggest attraction is the scenery. It's almost like a theme park. They meticulously recreated Italy, complete with a canal running through the center of the facility. Gondolas imported from Italy operate on the canal. You could ride them for a fee, and it seems that even the gondoliers were Italians, showing their dedication. Watching footage from that time really makes me want to visit. A facility like this would certainly become a hot topic. In its inaugural year, 4.2 million people visited, proving it a great success. Even the gondola had lines with an hour-long wait on opening day. Since it was a commercial facility, admission was of course free, but many people just came to enjoy the scenery without buying anything, or even intending to buy anything. Starting from April 23rd, right after the opening, the stores were only open on weekends and holidays. However, they implemented a measure where you couldn't enter unless you purchased a 500 yen coupon. In November 2006, it became unnecessary to purchase again. The reason behind making it unnecessary to purchase again was the decrease in visitors. Because you had to buy a coupon to go, the hurdle became higher. It's true that the number of customers decreased, but that doesn't seem to be the direct cause. The main attraction was the scenery, and there were few stores with strong customer appeal. Scenery tends to get boring, and people often think it's enough to visit just once, so in the end, it comes down to the stores. However, because the tenant lineup at Italia Village was too aggressive, it wasn't accepted by many people. However, if they had added attractions to draw people in, the concept of the facility would have been compromised, so it's a difficult situation. There weren't enough restaurants, there were only 10 in total. Out of those, 4 were dessert shops, so there were only 6 places where you could actually have a meal. More people use commercial facilities for dining than you might think. There is actually data showing that more than half of the visitors to large commercial facilities use the restaurants there. These numbers are from 2021, so they might be different from before, but on average, about 20% of all tenants are restaurants. In comparison, only 10% of the tenants in Italia Village are restaurants. If you limit it to places where you can actually have a meal, it's only about 7.5%. That's a small number. Since there are no other restaurants in this area, basically, people have to eat inside Italia Village. On holidays, it seems there were long waiting times, which naturally caused stress for customers. Also, the only real entertainment was the gondola. Other than that, it was basically just shopping. The tenant lineup was designed for that purpose. There's also the Venetian Glass Museum, but I don't go there every time. It's not the kind of place you'd go every time after all. The facility itself isn't that big, so it's not the kind of place where you can spend an entire day. Ideally, it would be best to visit here along with nearby places like the Nagoya Port Aquarium or the Sea Train Land Amusement Park. But since both the aquarium and amusement park are far, it's difficult. In reality, it appears that few people visited both locations. By the way, personally, I think the commercial facility in Osaka has the closest location conditions to Italia Village. Temposan Marketplace, but as for this one, it's right next to the Kaiyukan Aquarium, so it's convenient. I believe this facility would have struggled if it wasn't adjacent to the Kaiyukan Aquarium. For commercial facilities, location is paramount unless it's large enough for an all-day visit. Getting back to the topic, for these reasons, the number of visitors kept decreasing, satisfaction wasn't high, and we couldn't secure repeat customers. Visitors dropped from 4.2 million in the first year to 2 million by 2008, a decrease of half. The parent company, with high hopes, opened Italy Village and tried to support it. They paid a large amount of business support funds, but on May 7, 2008, with a deficit of 1.7 billion yen, the parent company itself went bankrupt. If it weren't for Italy Village, maybe they wouldn't have gone bankrupt. Italy Village was also closed around the same time, ending its short run after just 3 years. I think it's really a shame that a facility like this disappeared after just 3 years, but it went bankrupt. Problems with the management company kept coming to light from before. On this channel, I usually don't express too many critical opinions to maintain neutrality, but I'll say it anyway. The following episodes I will discuss are all terrible, but there are just way too many. In this video, I'll discuss the most impactful episodes. For more information on the others, see the articles in the video description's reference section, so please be sure to check those out. Let's discuss the unpaid construction fees for the new bathhouse facility Italia Village was building to boost the complex's overall profitability. However, payment for the construction was repeatedly delayed. The construction was halted midway and the contract cancelled. They agreed to pay the construction fee up to the suspension point, about 147 million yen in installments. It was agreed upon, but the payments stopped midway, leaving about 10 million yen unpaid. There was also unpaid wages for employees, and since there was no money to pay outside contractors, of course, there was no money to pay the employees either. Unpaid wages to employees and unpaid overtime, among other violations of the Labor Standards Act, became apparent as well. Due to the closure of Italia Village, all 360 employees were laid off, but since Italia Village had explained at the time of hiring that it would be a 20-year business, many of the employees were dissatisfied with the layoffs, and it seems that it even led to lawsuits. Lastly, there was also unpaid property tax. I think some of you are tired of hearing the word unpaid, but they were behind on about 80 million yen in payments. In response, Italia Village said it was a calculation error and that they would pay it off little by little. I don't know if all of it was ever paid, but it seems it remained unpaid. The company has gone bankrupt. As a measure against high tides, the city of Nagoya has an ordinance that prohibits wooden buildings in coastal areas. Despite this, most of the entrance zone of Nagoya Port Italia Village, which is located right on the coast, was made of wood. It was discovered before the bankruptcy that 14 buildings were wooden structures. It seems that it went unnoticed for many years because the Italia Village side had applied for the buildings as steel frame, with only some parts being wood. Regarding this, the Italia Village side initially planned to use wood, but after realizing the existence of city regulations, they instructed to construct with steel frames. A representative from the construction company testified that they might have built it based on the previous design plans. However, the construction company also testified that when they said it would be difficult to procure steel frames in time for the scheduled opening, Italia Village told them to go ahead and build it with wood. Honestly, I don't know which side is telling the truth, but what is certain is that the building is illegal. The Aichi Expo had to be held in 2005 regardless of circumstances. They wanted to open Italia Village during the expo period, so the opening date was set. However, due to the construction rush for the Aichi Expo, it became difficult to procure steel frames, so because of that, some newspapers pointed out that they might have chosen wood construction, not just to speed up the opening, but also because wooden materials are cheaper. By the way, after the illegal construction was pointed out, Italy Village argued that the possibility of a storm surge was low and that there was no problem with the current situation, and they even criticized the ordinance itself as being outdated. But shouldn't they have said that before building it? Italy Village faced numerous issues. I believe their excessive optimism was the root of all issues. In 2008, visitor numbers dropped to half of the opening numbers, but still reached 2 million. That's about the same as the population of Nagoya City at the time, so considering the size of the facility, I feel like they were actually getting a decent number of visitors. Yet, in a short period, they ended up with 1.7 billion yen in debt and went bankrupt. I'm curious about what kind of assets they had. Apparently, from the very beginning, they couldn't attract as many tenants as they had hoped, so they ended up running their own retail stores and such, which caused their necessary expenses to increase more than expected. I doubt they were even in the black during their first year of operation. The illegal wooden buildings on the site of Italia Mura were demolished, but some parts like the main building remained for a while. Cosplayers liked the facility because they could take photos with an Italian atmosphere, and it actually started being used as a venue for cosplay events. However, the buildings were demolished around 2015. The site was then used for things like a maze and barbecues. The area was regularly used for things like open spaces and barbecue spots, but now only an empty plaza and the ruins of a wedding hall remain on the site, waiting to be demolished. If I were a YouTuber, then I'd have filmed it. It's frustrating. Also, next to the site, the multi-story parking lot that was used at the time still remains, now serving as the Garden Futo East parking lot. It's still in use today. The color remains unchanged from when it was operational. There's a frame here for displaying things like campaign posters. After posting this notice, a closer look reveals alphabetic letters written on it. It seems certain that this is a notice from the Italy Village era. I was able to confirm it in the parking lot. That's about all that's left. If anyone knows of any other places where there are remnants, please let me know in the comments. Now, about the future of the site, regarding development, in 2023, Taisei Construction will be involved. The redevelopment of Garden Futo has been decided. It seems that the fairly large area, including Italia Mura, is designated as a possible development zone. At present, nothing is happening. Italia Mura used to be there. In this location, athlete accommodations will be set up for the 2026 Asian and Asian Para Games with Nagoya as the main venue. That's the current plan, but since it's only a temporary use during the event, it seems like full-scale redevelopment is still a long way off. I can't say anything for sure because we don't know yet what kind of development is being considered at this point. But if they're going to build an attraction, it would be best to have it near the aquarium. Green spaces and plazas are also areas that can be developed. For now, let's narrow down the area to be demolished. I wonder if it would be better to relocate them, and I'm curious about what kind of plans will be announced in the future. It's an area I'm looking forward to. With that, this video is over. See you next time.